fact went to meet Mr. Shammi Kapoor to ask him how he did what he did. And he just sort of laughed it off and said, look, I just loved that music, and I used to listen to it all the time. He said, I had a tape recorder in my car and I'd listen to it traveling from town to a studio wherever I had to go, and I just enjoyed it. So just try to enjoy it. Try to apply yourself the same way as you applied yourself in a film like Par. And I was astonished to learn he'd actually seen Par. But I did what I could. And then the second movie was Rihai, in which I was to be wooed by Hema ji, which is another thing I thought never happened to me in my life. But it actually did, and I may say it was a great pleasure. It was, in fact, the second time. Hema ji, the third time. Hema ji and I have appeared together in a movie. One was a film called Nargis, which never got released. And the third was Rihai. The first one, even she doesn't know about, was a film called Sapno Ka Saudagar, which was her first film, and I was in the crowd. So Aruna has made me go through two utterly unique experiences in the course of my filmic career. So here's the last bit from the preface. For me, it is not possible to separate my life and my personal experiences from the films I make. It doesn't mean that all my films are biographical. I'm interested in life, people, relationships, and sometimes disturbing issues in society, and that's the kind of films I made. However, I chose to make middle cinema or middle-of-the-road cinema as I wanted an audience for my films. I've also seen how I felt alienated from my own self when I made a film to meet the demands of the producer or the market and diluted it into a degree that robbed it of its soul. Such compromises don't work for me, and I decided long ago that I would rather not make a film if there is no artistic freedom. That explains why I made fewer films than I could have. The other reason was that I was working in a male-dominated, sexist industry and did not want to compromise myself as a woman. The lack of artistic freedom is also probably why most of the directors from FTII found it hard to create their films in the commercial atmosphere of Bollywood. There were other reasons too, but she hasn't talked about them. Though the technicians from FTII got absorbed into the industry, even before they had received their diplomas, there were only a handful of directors who found their feet in Bollywood. Stories can be told in various ways, and it is not the plot or even characters, but how a writer or director views it that is central. It's also a very interesting fact, which is not in this book, that the number of Film Institute graduates in Mumbai actually making movies today, a very small percentage is from the direction course. They're either editors or sound engineers or cameramen or even actors who've turned to filmmaking, not the direction students. After my first feature film, as a woman filmmaker, I found myself going against the trend in the male-dominated industry, against the backdrop of where young women found themselves in the 60s and 70s, facing whatever was available in India for them as a future, which wasn't very much. So my struggles have been both professional and personal. After my first feature film, Shak, was released, Sahi Paranjpe, who had been doing theatre and TV, released her first film, Sparsh. Then there was Aparna Sen, who did her first feature film, 36 Choring Lane, in 1981. And still, for years, there were just a handful of us. And we held our ground for over so many years and made films that we were proud of. Aparna continues to do that, and I admire her immensely. I have been teaching since the 1970s, and most of my girl students veered away from features, preferring to work on ads, documentaries, and television, simply because of the way the industry operated in those days, and also because it was likely to be a long haul. Today there are women directors in every kind of film, and that for me is satisfying. Thankfully, it's not just women filmmakers, but girls from almost all strata of society who have become vocal and in carving out their own space in an unequal society. In spite of heavy commercial demands and catering to the lowest common denominators, some actors not just survived but honed their craft over time. Then there were composers, singers and musicians who kept the spirit and art alive. Asha Bhosle, for one, is someone who again I admire for taking life by the horns and continuing to survive with great gusto all kinds of challenges, never letting it affect her singing, never giving up.
I'm going to read a little bit about, when I made Rihai, how it was for me. And Hema was there, naseer. I mean, my divorce was going on, my marriage had fallen apart, and I had to somehow stand for myself and do something with my life. And that's how I made Rihai. And all of them were so cooperative. Ila is there, she played a remarkable role in that, and many others, most of them are here, many of them are here. And they all worked so well with me, worked for peanuts, and stood by me, stood for me. And one person I remember amongst all of them is also, I'd like to say a few words about Vinod Khanna. He was a very good friend. He really helped me when I needed help. I didn't have money for the first print of Rihai. And he gave me money just like that and I said, but I don't know when and how and whatever. He said, payable when able. And thankfully I could pay that money back. But they all went out of their way to help me, and I do want to acknowledge Vinod as a very good human being who, and everybody, there's not much we can talk about him, everybody knows. But one thing I will say, thank you Vinod for everything, and we miss you. Now to come to the part that I want to read, we went to a God-forsaken village. We did, now of course it's Vadnagar, and it was Vadnagar then, but it turns out to be it was Mr. Modi's village, so it got known. But otherwise it was a God-forsaken village then, some 30 years ago. This was 30 years back. Anyway, I completed the film, but my ordeal was not yet over. The film I was making did not obviously fit into the typical Hindi film mold. Vinod Khanna was playing a Rajasthani carpenter, wore a dhoti and sported a moustache. My overseas distributor literally hounded me to show Vinod Khanna wearing trousers at least in one scene. In fact, he wanted me to shoot a dream sequence where we know that Hema wore urban modern clothes and sang a song. I was stubborn and did not give in. Such a compromise was beyond comprehension. After the film was released, there were so many women who loved the way Vinod looked. They found him sexy in that get-up and drooled over him. In fact, even his wife Kavita, we fell in love when she used to go, really, that was how it was then. The problem with the film was that people did not know how to categorize it. For the commercial industry, it was an art film, and for the art film crowd, it was a commercial film. An art film in those days was recognized by the commercial film industry as one if it had certain values. When parallel cinema came into existence in the 70s, some excellent films had been made, but by the late 80s, it too had developed a formula of its own. What characterized those films were elements.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaku, Aruna, yourself, and Rajeshwari. I think we can go to the next step of the evening. When someone has had a long journey and an eventful journey like Aruna has, there have been many colleagues, collaborators, friends, some of your memories.
Good evening, friends. I'm extremely happy to be here, especially with Arunaji today, on her very special day. Freedom, her book is